Okay, so tonight we're going to take a look at how we factor quadratics. And what I mean by a quadratic is anything that is to the power of 2. And so we can take a look at the standard form of ax squared plus bx plus c, where a is a number, b is a number, and c is a number. And so what we're going to be looking at is what we do when we factor and we run across this type of scenario. So make sure you have your notebooks out, you're following along, and let's get started. So we talked earlier about how factoring is breaking apart, but let's take a look how we built this polynomial. We had x plus 3 times x plus 5, and there's lots of different methods. This example uses the FOIL method. Here's your box method over here, and here's the breakout method where we did 3 times x plus 5 and x times x plus 5, and we kept everything together. But the bottom line is that we can see that these numbers come together by multiplying 3 and 5, they come together by a number that multiplies to this, and the 8x comes from adding 2 parts of the middle component. And so we'll take a look at that pattern, but basically we have to start to identify that pattern. So as we go through here, we talked on the first page about B, A, and C. The B, this middle component right here, comes from addition. This component right here comes from multiplication. And so we're going to be working on how to break down our quadratic using that knowledge. And I've left these notes here for you just so you can kind of think about it, and if you'd like you can pause and read it. But let's do this first one together. We have a squared plus 6a plus a. We know that the 8 came from multiplying 2 numbers together. That would be our a and the c. So we're looking for something that multiplies to an 8. We know that the 6a came together by adding 2 components. We're just not sure what that is. And so what we're trying to do is find a factor that multiplies to 8 and adds to 6. So we'll start with 1 times 8, doesn't add to 6. 2 times 4, 2 plus 4. So now we know that our x's were 2x and 4x. And we have x squared plus 2x, because I'm using x and we have plus 8. We know that now that the 8x squared, the 2x plus 4x, and the 8. And now it's just a simple matter of factoring by grouping. We have x times x plus 2 plus 4 times x plus 2. And so, I'm going to bring it over here to rewrite it. We have x plus 2 times x plus 4. And we can check that. We can use the box method. We can do any method we want. Okay, let's try another one. And we're just going to do a whole bunch of examples until you feel comfortable with this. So I like using this T method. So here's my B, A champion. I'm trying to add to 1, and I'm trying to multiply 1 times negative 42. I'm trying to multiply to negative 42. And we can obviously go a lot quicker, but I'm going to start off by negative 1 times 42, which would add to 41. Negative 2 times 21, doesn't get me there. 3 times 14, 4 doesn't go in, 5 doesn't go in, 6, negative 6 times 7, negative 6 plus 7 equals 1. And so you can see simply I do 1 into 42, 42, 2 into 42, 21, 3 into 42, 14, keep working through. I knew that the positive number had to be greater than the negative number because this number is positive. So I knew that I should start off with smaller negatives than positives, and that's just a technique. Otherwise, I mean, I could have started off the opposite and started off with positive 1 and negative 42, but we would have had to go through a lot more numbers until I got to our factor. So now I know that I have, and I'm just going to use x's to make life easier, x squared plus, we know that the g comes from 7x and negative 6x minus 42. We're going to use our grouping method again. X times x plus 7 minus 6 times x, negative 6 plus 7. Negative 6 times 7 does give me negative 42. And then I finally rewrite it, x minus 6 times x plus 7. Okay? Okay. Let's do one more. How about this one right here? So B, A, C. I know that I am going to add to 9. Remember, we're looking at ax squared plus bx plus c is my standard form of a quadratic. So I'm adding to 9 and multiplying to 18. 18 times 1. And I just want you to remember there is an a value there, because when things get more complicated, you're going to have to remember to multiply. So I'm adding to a positive 9, and I'm multiplying. So 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6, 3 plus 6 does equal 9. So now I know that my equation comes from x squared plus 6x plus 3x plus 18. I now know that the b is from the 9, comes from 6x and 3x. And now I'm just going to use my grouping method. X is my factor, x plus 6. 3 is my factor, x plus 6. I have x plus 6 times x plus 3. Obviously, if we end up with two different factors here, we know we've made a mistake. All right. Let's go on to the next page here and take a look at what we've got. Okay, I'm going to do these for you, and you can do them on your own if you want a little extra practice, but I'm going to still keep working with you here. Let's try one with a negative. I like the negative. So B, A, C, I'm adding to this, multiplying to this. I'm trying to get to a 1, and I'm trying to multiply 1 times negative 12. I'm trying to get to a negative 12. I know my answer is going to be positive. Okay, so I'm going to start with positive numbers. So negative 1 times 12 gives me positive 11 when I add these, right? 12 minus 1. Negative 2 times 6. 6 minus 2, not quite there. Negative 3 times 4. 4 minus 3, and I'm at 1. So I now know that my component comes from 4 and negative 3. So x squared plus 4x minus 3x minus 12. And I hope you can see that I'm just rewriting this middle component every single time with the two components that it came from. I look for the common factor now by grouping x and x plus 4 minus 3 times x plus 4, and then I finally write it out, x minus 3 times x plus 4. And obviously I could check my answer by using the box method or any other method. Let's do one more. Just a great bunch of examples here. Alright. Actually, I'm not going to do this one. Let's go on here. What happens if it doesn't look like a quadratic? What's the first thing that we do? Well, I told you need to find the GCF. The GCF of G4, 16 G third, and G second is G second. G squared minus 16G plus 63. Do I now have a quadratic? Absolutely. I can put my G squared over here. I have my BAC. I'm adding to negative 16 and I'm multiplying to 63. I now know that I need a negative number. Well, here I have a positive number. How am I going to end up with a negative number? Well, I'm going to have to use negative times a negative. And I'm going to take a shortcut here. Negative 7 times negative 9. Negative 7 plus negative 9 gives me negative 16. I now know that the component of this negative 16 comes from negative 7G and negative 9G plus 63. We do grouping again, so the G squared is out here, right? We do the grouping and we have G times G minus 7 minus 9 times G minus 7. G squared still sits on the outside, don't forget that. We have my G minus 9 and my G minus 7. One last one and we're all done for the evening, and then I have some practice problems for you to bring in for tomorrow. So the last one, first thing I want you to do every single time is look for the common factor. In this case, it looks like the common factor is the 3. So I pull out the 3. I have a squared minus 6a minus 27. Nice simple quadratic now. BAC. I'm looking to get to negative 6. Multiplying to negative 27. And so I start to run through my factors. And I discover that negative 9 times positive 3 gives me negative 9 plus 3 also adds to 6. So I now know that this comes from, and I just keep this on the outside, a squared minus 9a plus 3a. That's where this b component came from, minus 27. Do the grouping technique again. A times a minus 9 plus 3 times a minus 9. Keep my 3 on the outside. I have my a plus 3 and my a minus 9. Okay, so your assignment tonight is to answer these 4 questions. So pause and copy this down, and these 2 questions. So you should have 4 questions. I'd like for you to have those ready to turn into class tomorrow, so put these on a clean sheet of paper. If you have problems with them, go back and re-watch the video, and we'll have plenty of time to practice on Monday. Good night and have a great weekend.